Blog Talk Radio.
Hey guys, this is Those Guys with your host, Matt Marrero, along with the other host. What happened? You okay?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay. It's Tristan Walter, everybody.
Yes.
Are you laughing because so today we're doing Akira, by the way, everybody. Are you laughing because before, like when I paused, you heard what I heard? I heard dong.
No, I didn't laugh. I was thinking of doing a joke. I was going to scream out your name, and then I was going to turn into a horrifying monstrosity, and then I just couldn't stop laughing thinking about it. Halfway there.
Which half?
I just haven't screamed out your name yet. That's all.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I mean, you're wearing that red hoodie. You're close. You just got to morph.
Oh dear God.
So
It's like 80.
What?
Well, no, it's cold out tonight. You're right. I'm probably bundled up.
It's okay. So here's the thing, right? So first off, we're back, everybody. We took a week break. Some wires got crossed last week, and we couldn't get some things done. So we ended up taking a week-long break from Friday Night Movies and from Anna Saturday. But it's still Halloween in July, so we actually brought out Akira, which I know to some isn't technically a horror movie. Like, I feel like Akira's in this weird place where, like, there are some scary moments, but it isn't horror, like, when you think of horror stuff and you think of, like, oh, you know, like, either is it going to be gore, like, overly gory, and there were some parts that were bloody, right? Or is it going to be overly frightening? And there were some parts that were unnerving. But I know to some they might not fit it in that horror category. But I thought, you know, it would be for Halloween in July, it'd be nice to kind of just throw this in there, because it's a little bit spooky.
Right.
You know what I mean, Tristan?
Yeah.
Like it's more of a thriller, I guess, or like very dramatized. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I would call it unsettling.
Yes. Because like I feel like this is a movie, like I don't know, I feel like not many people would say, oh, it's Halloween time, let's put on Akira. To be fair, we wouldn't think that about Christmas either. Not too many people that I know. They're like, Akira's a Hanukkah movie. Like it's not like it doesn't really fit into a certain holiday necessarily.
I mean,
Akira,
maybe you wouldn't, but you know, whatever.
Well, all right, fine then. No, yeah,
I don't know about you, but I pop it in every holiday, just like I'm going to enjoy it.
Just every holiday.
Yep, every holiday.
All right,
even ones that I don't celebrate, all of them.
I pop it in for Thanksgiving to show the meaning of family and togetherness, and then I pop it in on Black Friday to show the evils of capitalism, and corporatism and consumerism. But no. It's such a strange movie because it's a classic, obviously. I'm a little nervous that over the years, and I mean only in the last few years, that it's kind of dropped its, not like its status as a classic, because it always will be, but I'm worried that not a lot of people tell people, hey, go watch Akira. So I feel like I want to be the first one to say, everyone, go watch Akira. It's a classic, and honestly, it's deserving of at least your attention. If, you know, I'm not saying it's everyone's cup of tea. I will say that people should read the manga more, because this is I want to say I think 7-8 volume manga. I've only read the first one because that's the only one I own, and I definitely want to delve into that more. And they actually just released, I think, a 30th anniversary collection of Akira, of the manga, and they actually flipped everything back into its correct order, because the manga that I have and the manga that even, you know, anyone can buy right now from, I think, Kodansha, sadly, it's the typical comic way. So they flipped it.
Huh.
Yeah. So they flipped it, and that kind of got me ticked off. But I believe the sound effects are in English, and I'm like, great, because that I like, right? I want to know what the fuck's going on. But now the newer ones, they flipped them back, which I'm like, yeah. But then they kept the sound effects in Japanese with translations at the end, and I'm like, can we just get something that Matt likes? Can we just make Matt happy? But no, there's a really crazy omnibus, box set that I think has 7 in it. And granted, these are huge, dude. Like, these are as big as Shonen Jumps, but I think more than 300 pages.
Damn.
Each volume. Yeah, the one that I have is that big, and they're I can beat you to death with it. And if I tried to, you'd probably just absorb it and everything. But Yeah,
yeah, I mean, my body is morphing out of control due to my newly awakened psychic powers. I can't control it. It's actually,
right, of course.
It's actually very hurtful that you brought that up, man.
I'm sorry to
I'm
hear
trying.
that. Anyway,
I really am.
Sorry to hear that. So, like, are you holding the phone, or is it just absorbing into you your gelatinous form?
Not actually sure at this moment.
All right,
Not
cool.
sure.
Happy to hear it. So is it weird to you? I don't know how much South Park you've seen, but is it weird to you that South Park even did a parody of this? Like, that's how big Akira is?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised that South Park did a joke about it because.
Do you remember this episode or no?
No, I haven't seen a lot of South Park, but I've probably seen it, like a clip of it somewhere before, because I think I can picture it and just how disgusted I was by it at that point too.
Without knowing about Akira, because I saw that South Park thing before I'd even seen Akira. It was a Trapper Keeper episode where it was like, it was a Terminator reference in there where it's like, I came back from the past to try to help you with your Trapper Keeper and whatever, and I forgot what happens,
right.
but it ends up like Cartman ends up getting morphed by it or some weird thing, so he ends up becoming like the ultimate. So he basically becomes he doesn't become Akira, he becomes Tetsuo when Tetsuo morphs out of control.
Right.
But what matters more is, let's talk about the film itself, right? So I really enjoyed this film. I do say, though, that the reason why I pointed out the manga more so than even just this film is because, well, it's a long film, right, for an anime film.
Right.
It still is lacking certain things. I don't feel like the movie itself didn't flow well, because it did. Which would make sense because the original creator is the one who adapted the movie from the manga. So it's not like it didn't, like, it's not like I sat there thinking like, oh, it feels like something's missing. Except, and I haven't really read it myself, so I wouldn't know, but I would say that the ending feels like there's something missing. And more importantly, I feel like they being the creator, delved into a lot about Akira, more so in the manga than in the film. I would just assume.
Yeah.
When it comes, having 9 volumes, right, or more technically in Japan, but having like these 8 very large omnibus, maybe even 9, I think, having so many volumes, you would assume that they would discuss more about Akira. Because it kind of felt like you as the viewer were supposed to just take it at face value, like, yeah, there's some psychic kids. And everyone can be psychic, but some people are like super psychic. And the super psychics.
It feels right. It feels like each, because with the kids, the psychic kids, and even with Tetsuo and Kaneda, it feels like their backstories were like hinted. Like you got a flashback here and there to say like, oh, they were, in school together, or they were in an orphanage together. And then, with the psychic kids, oh, you see the experiments they were kind of running. And why the psychic kids are like, yeah, Akira was our friend, and then bad things happened, and now we don't know where he is. Now he's just a bunch of organs in jars. But we don't look at him any different. He's still our friend. Stuff like that. Wasn't as much in the movie, but they give you little blips of it just to say, like, yes, this is a thing. It kind of feels like, hey, if you want more information on this, go read the book, please.
Which, I mean, we've said this before on the show, I believe, but if anyone doesn't know, and I'm sorry to burst anyone's bubble if they're like, anime is meant to, be entertaining, and anime is meant to make me buy the discs, and it's like, actually, anime is meant to, like, literally, I'm not saying anything against this creator, I'm just saying that the idea of anime, for God knows how long, if it's adapted from a manga, it's to sell the manga.
Right.
So that's why, at least to some people in recent memory, it's always been the case, but to some people I think more so in recent memory, they've thought, why did that anime just kind of end like this and they didn't really give us a season 2, and they kind of had it open-ended, and it's just kind of waiting for us if we ever wanted to get back to it, but we never will, right? And something like Dead Man Wonderland. And the reason why that's the case, or even like High School of the Dead, right? And it's like, why did they do that? To sell their manga. The anime was there so people would watch it on TV and go, wow, that's cool. Or Black Lagoon, that's another good one. And now, yes, I know some of these had authors that delayed their works and stuff like that, but still, the reason why some of them will end and kind of not come back, and you're like, what's up with that, though, right? It's because, hey, this is being made to make people go, wow, that's really cool, and then start reading the manga. Yeah. So I'm not saying that this was made only with that, intent, but yes, you saying like, oh, hey, it feels like it was kind of like a nudge, like if you want to know more. And I wouldn't be surprised if, obviously 2-hour movie, hard to put in that much content.
Something's got to be cut down a bit.
Yes, but I do think that while I still, the reason why I say things, the reason why I say things flowed well, though, is because I don't
transforming
feel like, I don't feel like this movie felt, I didn't feel lost. Necessarily. I just feel like you had to take it at face value. Like, I never felt like, well, why are they doing this? It's like, no, they made it pretty clear. Hey, we're part of the revolution. We have to come into this building. It's a government building. What the fuck do you think we're going to do?
Right,
The government building. We're in here to tear down some governments. That's the point.
Yeah.
So, I never felt lost. Like, why are they here? Or why are they doing this? Or why are they doing that? Like, it all felt like it flowed nicely. It's just, like I said, when I use the word taking face value, which is like we're supposed to sit there and go, yeah, they're child psychics, and just kind of sit there. We got to go meet Akira somewhere. Yeah, they do, clearly. Yeah, sure, okay.
Right.
And, I'm not allowed to ask why. It's just like, Matt, you just have to nod. Okay.
All right, then.
No, yeah, that's pretty much it. Like, hey, you guys are outside of, hey, I thought you guys were absorbed by Tetsuo. We were, and now we're not. All right, cool. Yeah, sure. That's just, granted, you could say, well, psychic energy flowing into space, whatever, they're all with Akira now, yada, yada. But, just without fan canoning it, it's just like, I thought you guys were dead. We're not. Me? All right. That's just, it feels like that's a fair amount of the movie.
Right.
X is happening. Why? Because it is. Okay. That is the movie. Heck, I still want to know kind of why. I know, I shouldn't question, in a way, I guess I should, why World War III even started, and more importantly, how everything got resolved. This came out in the 80s, so they may have been, chiming up, the Cold War.
Right, yeah.
Kind of drumming up that, whole, going that route. Where it's like, we're going to have because in many points after World War II, people were like, World War III, World War III. You still have people even saying that today. And not like today, like now. Even the past few years, people have been like, World War III. And it's just kind of funny.
Because it always feels like it's right around the corner.
But that's what's hilarious, is that it never is. That's what's really funny, is that, no, but it never
paranoia
is.
For you.
I know, yeah, but it's hilarious because no, but I think it's just really funny simply because of the fact that when this movie came out, I feel like now artists might, and I say not just manga, in general, creators, I think they know that if they have to make something in the future, they go 100 years or more now.
Right.
Because, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I feel like people aren't saying in the distant future, 2038. I feel like people understand now, wasn't it kind of silly when in the 80s we would say in the future X happened, and it was the mid-2000s or the early 2000s?
Well, because that was the future for them.
I know, but, I wouldn't, okay, I wouldn't, I feel like now we've realized, though, okay, let's not make something like Back to the Future or something like, Akira and say, oh yeah, in 30 years we're gonna have flying cars and jetpacks. I don't have jetpacks.
Yeah.
But yeah. Now
I feel like it's more of an idea that it's a possibility for and thinking of along the lines of what they grew up with, what's happening in their time, and what creators can project might happen within it. Because it always feels like they're projecting what they think might happen in their lifetime. I'm not saying all creators do that, but I feel like it's an idea behind it, No.
And I'm not, look, I get it, when you go into sci-fi, but I'm saying something like Star Trek, in some ways, I would argue, stands the future, quote unquote, test of time because they went that far in the future.
Right.
Where if they were like, we're flying in space to try to find more colonies. Now, granted, I don't remember the year that the original Star Trek was supposed to be set in, but I don't know if they actually gave us an official year. But I'm hoping that they weren't like, yeah, it's in the 60s now. Yeah, it's what happened by like 2000.
Yeah.
Like, I'm hoping they weren't. Because to be fair, if someone tells me, no, Roddenberry meant it to be in 2000, then I'd laugh, to be fair. But I'm pretty sure it was like, no, like, far off in a distant. I mean, even with, like, Lucas, it was like, no, it happened a long time ago. I'm sorry, sir. Yeah, no, like, but in a galaxy far away. It's like, all right, sir. Like, with Star Wars, it's like, all right, man. Like, happened a long time ago, not even in the future.
It's completely different universe. So
I know it's the no. I'm just saying in general, like you either have to go really, really farther in the future or in the past. I think to make something like because like it's just funny to me where it's like we're currently in 2017 and it's just like in 2 years that should be our world, not in terms of like nuclear fallout because that happened earlier. They were already recovered from nuclear fallout and apparently had a very totalitarian government that I would like to know more about, please.
I mean, yeah.
Like, I guess I would argue it makes sense right after to have a world war to have, like, a lot of, like a big thumb kind of just pushed down on you to try to keep peace and order. But it's kind of funny how, like, even without an Akira, it still seemed like things were going to shit or that they were recovering from some bad shit.
Right. And it's interesting to see how, like, the general goes on about like, yes, I understand that, all of this is complete shit, but it took us this long and this much to just get it back to this. It's not what I would call good either, but we've spent so many lives and people trying to rebuild from the ashes, and here we are. I'm not going to let it all go to shit once again.
Yeah.
And he seems to have that mindset of, the next World War is coming around the corner, or the next, in their case, the next Akira disaster is right around the corner. Like, if we don't research this and find out how it does what it does, then we're doomed to repeat it all over again. And it was kind of sad because I kind of felt for him in a way.
Yeah.
And then, like, because he was so sick and tired, because it felt like the government that was instilled, the council, had just become so corrupt at that point. So he's like, you know what? I'm going to do this myself. And, of course, the people that serve under him are loyal to him, because he's looking out for them. So he just does a military coup.
Yeah, that was something I did not expect, and I think that was crazy, right?
Yeah, because he doesn't inherently seem like, the quote-unquote bad guy. Like, he is trying to save everyone in his own way. And granted, he might not be doing it in the best ways, but, yeah.
It's just really funny how I think it's just like, I expected him to be not like because he wasn't a dick by doing that, but I expected him to be a lot more, controlled in essence because he's a soldier.
Yeah.
And I think it's just really funny how they, like, in my head, I'm like, oh, yeah, no, this is totally going to be, under, like, he's going to be under their thumb. And it's more so like, no. I will literally have a fucking military coup. Like, we will be under martial law, which it seems like they sort of already are in a sense.
Yeah, in a way.
It's interesting. Like, no, because it literally feels like even though they're in Neo-Tokyo, which, by the way, it's kind of funny how it's like, we rebuilt after the World War. And it's like, seems like you built it better than it was before in some respects.
Right.
Like the more populated areas are more futuristic than anything, but then the slums are like, I mean, clearly it's abandoned, right? But like it's super slummy. It's interesting where they focus their attention on, I guess, to like rebuild. But back to the fucking military coup. Yeah, it's just I didn't expect it, and I was actually kind of in a way happy to see it because it's like, clearly it's become about bureaucracy and money. And by the way, when is it ever not? It becomes about bureaucracy and money.
Fair enough.
So it's just so it's like, no, we need to protect the people here. And I think maybe it ties into also wanting to know more about Akira and more about the psychic kids. But I want to know how long like this shit's been going on because first off, I want to know, like, the reason why I say I want to know what started World War III, because if it's like, oh, no, it was just a bomb, all right, but then where does Akira have any, was it involved, like, was it about Akira or something, or was it just like, no, I mean, the bomb happened, and then over the next 30 years, we rebuilt again. Yeah.
Because watching the movie, I'm trying to think if like World War III, quote unquote, is just their cover up, because I know the kids were part of a government experiment.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, like, the military guy, like, he might be at fault too. It's like, was it their own mistake that killed everyone, or? Because I feel like I might sound like an idiot to fans of the actual film and manga and like that, but there's a lot going on behind the scenes that if you don't watch this a few times through, I feel like a lot of stuff like slips through the cracks that you don't
like
exactly
that.
Get the first time.
Like that sentence, just slip through the cracks. No, but you are completely right. There is a lot of bureaucratic nonsense that's going on that is kind of hard to fully take, and also other kind of weird, like, assassination attempts and shit.
Right.
That I think I'm happy they were kept, but are kind of second fiddle when it's kind of like, look, I care about these kids, but the rest of the nation is on the line if these people get assassinated or not, right? Like, or, so-and-so ends up having a heart attack, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, wait, is he having a heart attack, or does he just overdose on pills? I'm confused. So there's so much going on. Also, me wondering, like, did they see potential in Tetsuo, or did they just kidnap him off the streets because he was just some kid? Or because him getting in, like he got in contact with the psychic kid, but, like, at first I thought, at first you think, they kidnapped him because he saw the kid, so you got to take him. But then they're experimenting, or at the very least trying to test his powers, and I'm like, but why?
Yeah.
You haven't done this to, like, every kid.
Right. Yeah, I feel like it might have to do with him coming in contact with him.
Yeah, which I guess maybe, I don't know.
I kind of think of it as, like, the psychic kids kind of, like, I mean, they were all, like, together when, the tests were going on, so that's kind of, like, why they're friends. It's the only human interaction they've had, basically, with people their own age. But maybe they thought of, he's interacting with him. Maybe he has potential as well, because he's, like, they're kind of drawn to each other in a sense.
Yeah. Also, they're not kids? Question mark? Like, they're mentally.
Yes. Well,
they are.
I think they are kids, but their bodies are affected by the tests and the medications and everything, that they don't develop correctly.
That's what I thought.
Like
I'm only confused because, first off, the little tiny suits, where the one kid with the general is just like, we need to head here, and I'm like, you're a little one, and you're a kid, but. And furthermore, the reason why I say this is because, like, we used to play with Akira all the time. Like, they sound like kids, and I would argue they would not have by the way, I'm referring to one of the dubs because there's several. They would not have dubbed over the them as kids if, like, with actual child actors, if, like, they had to get approval for that shit. Right, so they had to ask, like, maybe not the creator necessarily, but they had to ask a production committee, hey, can we use kids? And if they were like, no, that's not the intent, just get, some guy to do it or whatever, then okay, but they didn't do that. So clearly the intent was for them to be children, or at the very least have the same mindset. It was just so interesting because, like, I sat there and I was like, you would, I don't know. I would just think, like, you would imagine that they're older in some form or another. Very interesting. Yeah. Also, I love how in some ways it's very dated, and it's not the creator's fault. It's anyone who makes something that sets it in the future. It always reeks of the time period it came from.
Right.
So and the reason why I say that is because like, not in terms of like, in some values, right? In terms of like, those kids were getting beaten up, right? In the Wayward School, like, Tetsuo and his Kaneda and the whole crew, not Tetsuo, but it was Kaneda and the crew were getting beaten up. And it's like, how could that happen? It's like, well, Japanese sensibilities at the time were, hey, these people are basically your parents, so like your teachers. So not that you should beat the kids, but like, if they're, but like if they're mouthing off, it's just like, how dare you? And you could like potentially slap a kid.
Right.
And it's kind of funny because like in 2019, not even just ours, I feel like even in theirs, it'd be like, let's not do that. Like, I know in a way they're still rebuilding from a time when like everything was exploded, but like still like, things change. Times change.
Yes.
Even through tragedy. So it's just kind of funny that like they kept that. Also the hairstyles too. I was like, you are 1988 hairstyles. This is funny.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like basically, I was referring to it not necessarily the crew that they hung out with, but more so the girls. Like basically any girl in the movie.
Yeah.
I was just like, any girl in the movie. I was like, your hairstyle reflects when this was made, not the future that it's meant to be set in. So it was very interesting.
I mean, you don't know, Matt. Maybe it'll come back into style at that point.
In 2 years from
another
now.
2 years. Exactly.
Yeah,
you don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know.
I don't know. I would like to mention that government
I'm
facility.
Just in a power suit, like waiting. No, I would not do that.
Yes, the government facility was very poorly run.
I mean, what government facility isn't poorly run, Matt?
The kind that has secret psychic children. You would hope that they wouldn't get out unless they kill everyone. Like, later on, when Tetsuo was just dropping people, I was like, okay, this makes sense. He is killing all of them. But when they're like, Doctor, he escaped the hospital, I'm like, guys, come on now. You got to keep your psychic kids on lockdown. Let's all...
Well, yeah. Well, that's why, like, the military general comes out and he's like, all right, so I'm getting him back. Like, now.
Yeah. Oh, I just realized
population,
something.
This is going to be one hell of a shit show.
I just realized something. I never noticed this until literally this exact moment. At the school when they're in class and everyone's pissed and like Kaneda's reading some manga, apparently it says "fuck you" in English right next to him. Written on one of the desks.
Yeah.
But I forgot about that because everything's in Japanese. So like when it is, they'll usually translate it for you. But it's just like, the subs will. But it's just kind of funny that out of nowhere I was like, wait, I didn't notice "fuck you."
Yeah.
Or I think it says "fuck your."
That was in the. Yeah, that was the graffiti at the very beginning of the movie when the guy walks in and he's picking up the drugs from the bartender. Like as he puts out his cigarette, I'm pretty sure there's either like "fuck you" or something across in graffiti. I'm like, I mean, there's graffiti everywhere, so like, yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure from what I remember from the first volume of the manga, they actually went into the gangs a little bit more. And I think that's something, too, that kind of felt dropped a little bit. Like, it feels like a lot of things were touched on, but sadly it felt like a greatest hits, in a way, of the manga.
Right.
Yeah. Like, I don't know, it just kind of feels sad in a way that...
I mean, they did keep, well, not keep, but, like, the animation for the bike scenes with them racing around in the slums was... fucking beautiful.
So that's why I think if anyone sees this, and I think they understand why I get infuriated, or at the very least, I think that a lot of newer 3D driving scenes in anime are very lackluster. Now, granted, I haven't seen a lot of newer anime with these driving scenes, but usually when I see some like Black Lagoon or even like Initial D, or even something like, I don't know, just like a bunch of newer anime that usually focus on cars or bikes or whatever, I'm not the biggest fan, and at least of how the driving scenes look. And I've never really had anyone get on my case. I think I get a general like, yeah, but I know that for Black Lagoon you were saying to me, oh no, it's not that bad. But like watching a movie like this, and I know, very expensive movie, to be fair, but watching a movie like this with these 2D driving scenes, like this is what I enjoy. like just a nice 2D driving scene. Or if the whole thing is 3D, then I get it. But the problem is if something's 3D in the anime sense, right, where like anime does their specific type of 3D, and then the car model comes out and it's 3D, and I'm like, that doesn't blend at all.
Right.
It
just sticks out like a sore thumb. Yeah.
Yes. So Black Lagoon, I don't think it was 3D necessarily, but like some newer stuff that I've seen.
There is a scene that it is, and it does stick out, but it's, I don't know, there's a lot of action going around, going on around it too, so.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean in Black Lagoon the cars were 3D, I'm saying, but like not everything else was 2D in terms of how it was drawn.
Yeah.
Because like newer anime is pretty much all 3D, but it's a specific kind of 3D that it's, in my opinion, sometimes harder to tell. One thing I want to mention too that is relatively dated about this film is the animation style, right? Where obviously very, very well done, beautifully done. I would suggest to everyone to get the Blu-ray, right? But the way they move their mouths, it's very interesting to try and have it even be dubbed into English. Right. Because no matter what, it just seems awkward. No matter what voice actor, no matter what script you have, I feel like just the way they move their mouths and even their hands is extremely awkward. In terms of like, when I say extremely awkward, I mean like, I feel like people who watch, let's say this, when they were younger, right, were like, oh, so this is what anime is. Mm-hmm. Like, they got a distinct picture of like, this itself is anime. Where, you know, even at the time, or a little bit later, while some anime didn't look as beautiful as this, they still moved their hands, or at least moved their mouths a bit more, I would argue, fluidly, and not so much like with an over-exaggeration in some senses. So I think it was very interesting that, when I say over-exaggeration, I mean just like their mouths being very open, which is something you can't notice me doing because I'm not on camera. But I hope you can hear it. I hope everyone listening can hear my mouth being very open and very emotive.
Your mouth was so wide open I could see it through the phone.
Yes. But I think people understand what I'm saying if you've seen the film. It's very emotive, and very rarely do people close their mouths, which is interesting to me. Also, something strange, too, that I'll notice is that it feels like, and maybe it's just to save time, not just save budget, but it feels like a lot of what goes down, like sometimes characters will just be in a place instead of walking or opening a car door or something like that. Where, like, specifically looking at the scene where they carry away Tetsuo again, basically it was interesting how it'll be like, you know, let's say a quick turn, and then a colonel will be there, and then a blink, and then he won't be there anymore. It won't even be in the car. Like, it won't even show him getting into the car. Even the random agent that kind of just threw Kaneda around, he just walks off, and it cuts back to them being pissed. Then it cuts back to the agent in the car. Like, very interesting ways to kind of save time, if not also budget, where it's just kind of like even showing, like, they didn't show like the workers going over there to, you know, inject Tetsuo. They were just there. I think it's very interesting how some stuff they kind of saved, I guess, you know, cut things up here and there in a way that saved a lot of time, like, you know, a lot of stuff on the cutting room floor, to just be like, all right, let's just do this into this, into this, into this. Very, but not in a way that I would argue you can go, oh, well, obviously. It's just after me seeing it a few different times. It's like, right. They didn't walk over there. They just kind of appeared. Yeah. So it's such an interesting, I don't know, I think the art style is so interesting. Yeah. Compared to what we get, even not just nowadays, even something like Dragon Ball Z was vastly different than this. Like when I see this animation, it reminds me of something from like the 60s or 70s, in a bad way. Just, it makes me think of, you know, it makes me think of a lot of other works of like, you know, like Tezuka's other, you know, like works, and basically I think of Astro Boy in some senses, or a lot of other, like, let's say 70s horror manga. I'm trying to think of the names that are escaping me right now. But Yumezo Kazuo, I believe. Makes me think of The Drifting Classroom. That's one that you should definitely read, Tristan. I know you fucking haven't read it. You need to read Drifting Classroom. No, I read it a few years back. It's such an amazing piece of work. And you can tell, and that came out in the 70s, so like I can tell that this was inspired by that. And what's interesting, too, is when you look at this movie, and you and I were talking about this before the show even began, this movie definitely inspired some anime after it, obviously. And people say, well, duh. But, like, I think it's just funny when you look at something like Dragon Ball Z. Right. And you're kind of like, yeah, like, just them powering up, I think, alone. Or just having Tetsuo kind of, like, in that stance. Or, like, Tetsuo in that stance, screaming. It's kind of like, yeah, you. You know, like, you're Goku. Or, like, you're just basically charging your ki right now. So is there any anime that you can think of other than Dragon Ball Z that have really been inspired by this?
I mean, I don't know. Nothing that I can really think up off the top of my head.
One of them that I was thinking of, and I think because I know sadly you haven't seen Elfen Lied. I'm not saying it's
right.
you have to see it. I mean, I would definitely say to read it, read the manga. But the anime is hit or miss to some. It's to me it wasn't the best thing out there. But the opening scene where she's kind of going around essentially cutting off people's heads in the lab really reminds me of the scene with Tetsuo doing it, literally to this these people that are trying to shoot him in the lab, and it's kind of funny because Elfen Lied, the anime came on I think like 2003. Forgot when the manga started, but just, Psychic Girl, right? Psychic Girl kills people. Oh, gee, I wonder. It's such an, this is, I remember you mentioned to me, you were saying how everything, it's not just an anime thing, everything does the motorcycle skid.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
There's actually, there's a video, you could probably just, honestly, you could probably type that into YouTube and you will find the video that I'm talking about. And it wasn't just like, 2 or 3 series. No, it was like 5, 6, 10 different series, all, varying levels of animation and different styles and stuff like that. There is kind of does when he swings the motorcycle around and slides down the highway a bit. It's like, that's in so many different things. I didn't really realize or think of like, they're not referencing it, are they? It's like there's enough to make an argument to be like, no, I'm pretty sure that's what that's referencing.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a nod, Like I guess to call it a reference really. It's just kind of a nod,
Yeah, no, it's interesting that so many pieces of media. I mean, even Kanye West is a fan of Akira.
Oh, jeez.
Did you know that or no?
I don't know if I did or not. I probably not.
In Stronger, right? You know the song Stronger, right? Yeah, in the music video, there's clips of Akira.
Well then.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just I love it. Just what? Yeah, man, it actually happened. But yeah, so I think that a lot of the themes in the movie were very interesting because definitely I would argue that they didn't necessarily portray the freedom fighters as bad guys, which I think was interesting. Like they had more of like, I don't know, I guess a neutral stance to them. It's hard for me to explain. Like they didn't seem to be.
It kind of felt like the resistance was more going for revealing what the government was actually doing.
Yes.
Instead of it being all hush and just do what you're told. It's like, no, we want to have a say in what's going on, and basically you've left us to, it turns into a huge class warfare between the incredibly rich who seem to be now in the rebuilt city in, Neo-Tokyo, and then everyone else who's left over and has to live in the slums of old Tokyo.
Yeah. And I think it's so interesting that a topic like that, right, is something that always seems topical.
Topical?
Like it's always,
class struggle
it's kind of fun.
Just a theme that'll appear into almost everything, because it's an idea that tugs on human nature too. It's like it's something that you can reuse as an ideal for just about any setting, and I mean, you still need to put the effort into it to make it a compelling story and like, give each side like its own dimensions. But yeah, it's always a good plot point.
Yes, but yeah. So I don't know what else to really say about the movie. Sadly enough, because I mean, I do think that it was. What I will say is, it was nice to make Kaneda not a complete hero or a complete asshole. Where, I mean,
Yeah.
it might be dated because at the time they thought it might be funny, but just him saying stuff to the woman working with the resistance. In some ways it was funny, but in other yes, thank you. In some ways it was funny, but in other ways it was like, all right, you're overstepping your bounds here. But again, you have to remember he's a punk hooligan going to this school that is. It's funny. I don't know if the school is for ne'er-do-wells or if it's just a school in the slums. So
I think
that's
it's kind
how
of both.
Yeah, I guess so. It was interesting. Because I don't know if it was like, and also I do like I want to see more of this world. That's why I'm now in my head. I'm like, should I get the collection of the omnibuses? It's like math was $135. I'll look between my couch cushions.
Right. Yeah.
For pennies, because it's just I really want to delve more into this world because this really did give me a great taste of Akira, but I feel like there's just so much more that is missing, but I think you feel, I don't know, maybe to me, I feel like you think it's missing after the fact, not while you're watching the movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's more of a like after a scene kind of passes by, it's like kind of wish I knew a little bit more about that, but it's not like I'm missing anything while watching the movie and thinking, well, that doesn't make sense because I don't have enough, I don't have enough background for it, so it's like, oh, I can't go along with this. I can't follow this. It's like, no, it streamlines it enough so it's like you can still follow it and enjoy the movie. Like you might be, the only thing that really left me questioning or just, I mean, that might have even been, obviously that's part of the point, but like where after their fight and, the kids, Akira and Tetsuo, are kind of taken away into that light, I'm like, oh, what's going on?
Yes.
And it's, just Kaneda going through like flashbacks, and it almost feels like it's because one of the scientists states something before his observation van blows up from the readings, but like it was something to the effect of the birth of a star. So it's like, oh, so is this, and even the kids kind of like hint on this idea that it's like, oh no, all of humanity can kind of reach this level per se.
Yes.
But it's like, or even the resistance, Kay was talking about, oh no, it was the girl talking through Kay.
Yes, through her.
Kikyo. No, not Kikyo. God damn it. Something to that effect. Kyoko.
Here's something I also want to mention too, by the way,
girl.
to anyone. Yes, I think you know this, but in case you don't, I want to mention this to you.
Right.
The phrase star in Japanese is also the same word for planet.
Right. So birth of a planet, birth of a star, still a cosmic body.
But that's the interesting thing. Depending on how it was written, it probably, because, this is professionally done. So I'm sure they knew, okay, no, it's a star. But the phrase, but if it was a planet, how interesting is that, too? Like a planet that they could live. I'm sure it's probably a star, and that's a better message. But, a star is born. But still, it's a very interesting thing to think like a whole new planet. It's a very sci-fi world.
Right. I mean, it basically just feels like the idea of, creation in a sense. It's like, so then, and that's this whole idea why, the military was testing with all of this. It's like, what can we actually do with this, and can we harness this kind of power? It's like, should we try and harness this kind of power? And, in a sense, in their world where they're still rebuilding from the fallout of a huge war, it's like, yeah, they're kind of going to go for it because it's like it may help to rebuild or make something better. Granted, some of the most worst things can be done with the best of intentions, and case in point.
Yeah. It's strange. Like, it's very strange to think of, like, where this could have gone or where I thought it was going.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what else to...
It kind of feels like just that whole ending is sort of open for your interpretation, too. And
yeah.
maybe that's just because the movie, was streamlining, like I said, or, there might be more explanation to it in the actual manga, or it is just an ending where it's like, it's geared to make you think about it. And that's a good way to do it, too, even.
Yeah. So speaking of the word, you said streamline, which is funny. There's a streamline dub. I believe that's the name of the company. There's a streamline dub because there's 3 different dubs of this movie. There's the original Japanese, right? Then there's an English version that was done. I believe it was a dub done, I think, in the 80s, 90s, which actually appeared, I believe, on Fox. So, I mean, I'm sure that was edited in some ways. But there's that dub. And then, of course, there's the newer dub that was made that apparently is, from the looks of it, because I compared the 3 a little bit, is more accurate. And it seems as if that is the version that, people should look to. I mean, in some ways. I mean, I know there are a lot of people, even me included in some respects, that really enjoy the original dub, or at least parts of it. However, and I understand some people saying, like, but Johnny Young Bosch is the new one, so they might think that it's a problem, because I know there's some people that are somewhat against Bosch in some ways, but, or at least in some of, the fact that he's in everything.
Right.
But still, like, I don't know, I feel like I really enjoyed the voice acting. I mean, the kids were a little off, I will admit, in some ways. I felt like the kids' voiceover work, it was aight. Right, like there were some parts that I'm like, you are indeed children doing this. But there were other parts where you were like, no, it's not that bad. And I'm like, no, the kids weren't bad, right, playing kids. And I love the authenticity because it just sounds more authentic than, a woman doing a child's voice, which is usually what happens. But no, I just, even though it was more authentic, I feel like, the kids may have been a slight miscasting in some ways, but I have to say though that I really enjoyed. I forget the actor's name, but he played Tetsuo, and he was also Tai in Digimon, which is really awkward when it hits you.
Oh God.
Yes. Also, if anyone doesn't know, like which one was Johnny Young Bosch? That was Kaneda. Or, as I believe in the original dub, it sounded like Canada, which is kind of funny. But yeah, so that was Canada.
Goddamn.
And Canada was pretty fun. I enjoyed Canada.
I really did like the dynamic between Kaneda and Tetsuo because and granted you probably get more of their, like, more details of their friendship in the manga, but you get just enough to kind of feel it out. Because, like, they're both at this orphanage/school together. Kaneda's always been kind of a leader in a sense. He has the qualities. He has the charisma, too.
Yeah.
Like, that seems to be one of his more positive, granted he might not always use it for positive means, but, like... Like he uses it for his own survival, and it's interesting. He's even the rest of his gang, like they're all just trying to survive in a sense in the world that they're thrust into.
Yeah,
and it really shows you how that world has kind of molded them too. Like even when they're hanging out with that other group of girls or whatever, and they run over and like give them cigarettes or whatever, and they're like, oh, you're so strong, you're so tough, and blah blah blah, I heard you took on that other gang and blah blah blah. And it's just kind of that ideology. It's like, yeah, strength in the streets kind of matters to them because it's all they know.
Also, they're orphans? ?
I think at least Tetsuo is. He was given up, or at least that's what the film made me think.
Yeah.
When they drop him at the school. Not sure about the rest of the kids in Kaneda's gang. They may or may not be.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say it's a safe bet, but who knows?
Yeah. That was interesting.
But it also, not just. with the with their gang and their interactions, going along the lines of how their world has molded them. It's also this idea of their social interactions of, if they're a strong gang, they're going to get well recepted, but also on the other hand, just as people, when one of the girls asks, Kaneda, what's wrong, or where's Tetsuo, and blah blah blah, he just gets angry about it and he shoves them away and he says, stop bothering me. It really shows you their kind of mentality. It's like, yes, they are still kids, and Kaneda, being the leader, trying to put on a tough face in any kind of situation. If something goes wrong or he's not able to handle it, he's going to respond to it in what most people would say like an immature way. Like he gets violent about it, or he completely blows you off, or stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it brings in that whole psychological idea. It's like, well, that's what the world has taught them. That's what their world has taught them. So they don't know really how to be understanding, in a sense. Not that they don't have the capability to, of course they do, but it's a reflection of what they've grown up with. And, even Tetsuo as well.
I really enjoyed their interactions in the movie because, while still limited, it does feel like, it's a story of, I always wanted to be the leader, but it always seems like you have to be the one saving me. And in a way that creates the inadequacy that makes him... Once Tetsuo is exposed to that level of power, he's like, now I can be the leader. Now, you don't have to always run. It's weird because with, what you see of Tetsuo, I feel like, maybe not everybody, but I feel like some people might be, off-put by his character. Like, oh, he's just, a whiner, and he's like, stop saving me. It's like, it is kind of that, because Kaneda is always kind of stuck up for him ever since they were kids. That's the scene where they become friends. Yeah.
And you'd think, oh, well, why would he be so angry about his friends sticking up for him? Wouldn't he be okay with that? And it kind of just feels like as they get older and they, nobody wants to show weakness. So Tetsuo doesn't want to always be thought of as the second banana, quote unquote.
Exactly.
He wants to show that he can take care of himself and that he's strong too. It's like, you can't push me around. Because I'm sure in their gang, they probably pick on each other due to, in hierarchy, in standing. So I'm sure Tetsuo kind of, not that they were, probably they'd be a bit more rude to each other than, say, me and you would be. But, they would joke with each other, and it would kind of get to a point where, Tetsuo would probably get fed up with it, in a sense. Being the runt of the litter, I guess you could say,
Yeah. What I wanted to say, too, was that it's interesting to see how Tetsuo, even though, yes, he ended up hurting people, it doesn't seem like he wanted to. And when I say that, I mean, when he's standing out there against the military and there are the Akira worshippers behind him. To be fair, maybe it's just a power trip thing. They worship me. Why would I hurt them? But still, it doesn't seem like he wanted them to get shot.
No.
So, when they start shooting them, he was like, oh, hell, and he makes a shield because he's like, wait, what? Shoot me, yeah, but why would you shoot them? And, because the military, they're like, well, they're all hostiles. They worship Akira. God knows what they have. Not understanding that they're not the rebel
group
not like the one. Yes, they're not a rebel group. They're a religious organization, arguably.
Right. A cult, too. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Also, they know what Akira is?
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't think any of them actually know, oh, yeah, it's just a bunch of kids, organs in a jar. I don't think they know that. I think it's more of the rumors kind of spread of, what caused the explosion. And that it's kind of Akira is kind of like the reset button. It feels like for them. So it's this world, our world is falling apart. Pray for Lord Akira to, destroy it and remake it in his glorious image and bring us to prosperity, that kind of idea.
Which is really funny because another work that the author made of Akira, another work that he made was called Harmageddon. So it's literally like Akira-geddon, essentially. Right. But yeah, I understand they didn't know like what Akira really was, but I think it's interesting that apparently the word Akira wasn't kept as under wraps as they would have liked, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, because clearly they're like, we're gonna worship Akira, and it's just like, wait,
stop that.
No. Yeah,
that
like
doesn't
I wonder,
exist. You don't know about that.
Like I wonder if the shaman was actually psychic.
I don't think so. I think it's just, you can't keep something that, like, you can't keep an event like that happens in such a populated area secret forever.
Yeah.
Word will get around.
Yeah. So. Also, I think it's very interesting how people lived. Okay, what I mean by that is not like lived at the end, although yes. The way the end was drawn, it made it look like the entire city was underwater, and then you pan out, and I'm like, wait, there's still city? But I wasn't referring to that. I'm referring to the way they made World War III look. I was like, oh, man, there are not going to be a lot of people left. And I know it's 30 years, but it felt like after 30 years, it felt like there were a lot of people who were really old that somehow survived. Like, you would think everyone would be in, like, you would, seeing the general and seeing a lot of people, like elderly people who were just like, just kind of around, I was like, you lived through World War III. That was a rather large bomb.
That's why I feel like the World War III aspect is kind of a cover-up story for their experiments going wrong.
Okay.
Like, I feel like they were testing, and Akira as the kid caused that first explosion.
Yeah.
And then it seems very controlled as well, because as you see the ruins of the old city, it's only that radius and where the light spread out to that's like obliterated, and the rest of it around it is okay. So I feel like the destruction, at that time when it was in the middle of old Tokyo was incredibly, it was a huge destructive event. But if you weren't within that radius, you were perfectly fine.
All right. That's
just how
thought.
I think of it. Yeah.
No, and that's okay. It's an interesting thought because, I do want to know a lot.
And it feels like, the World War III aspect is the government's cover-up for, like, it wasn't one of our top-secret experiments that we were doing.
Well, yeah, because I really would have liked to see a world view, because you use the word World War III. So to me, I'm just like, and what the fuck is going on in America right now with these Akiras, or just around the world, like, because you kind of sit there and it's just like, I know that the media does seem controlled, even though it's kind of funny. The guy was like, "You're limiting our First Amendment rights," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, because that's a government that wasn't limiting anything before." Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
They literally had interrogation booths in a high school gym that were like, "Are you or have you ever been a member of the Communist Party?" Essentially, and beating up people. Yeah, that disagreed or were like, "No, I'm not a spy." Now, granted, maybe they were, but still, you had people getting beaten up, what looked like left and right, and I'm just like, "Oh yeah, this regime is in no way oppressive."
Yeah, that one cop who was just so mad at Kaneda for calling him Pops, of everything. Somebody just threw a grenade inside your interrogation gymnasium. And you're going to get the most upset at this kid calling you Pops because you're not that old.
To be fair, though,
I could not fathom.
So you're telling me, now I don't know if I'd care or not, but you're telling me you wouldn't be pissed if a 15-year-old called you old man.
I don't feel like to that level. Like,
Fair enough.
I'd probably still be like, all right, very funny, kid, get the fuck out of here, But, like, considering what just happened, I don't think that would be my prime concern.
Well, they took care of that guy, and they were going to beat the ever-loving shit out of him. In fact, they already got some shots in.
That's good for now. We'll give him a real lesson later. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's funny, I said earlier, I don't know what to say about this movie, and then we went on for this long. But now I actually don't know what else to say about it other than I'm very happy that we did it, and I suggest everyone watches it again because I feel like there's funny, speaking of Digimon alumni, the old man, the one who is super duper capitalist, who sent out assassins and everything, his voice actor was Gigi, or I think Gigi-mon in the original Digimon, which is kind of funny.
Old man.
You can hear it. Yes, you can hear it in his voice. And another funny thing is, and I don't know how this is possible, but no matter how many times I watch this movie, if I take a large gap in between watching it again, I will think that in the newer dub, and of course all the voice actors of Johnny Young Bosch and I think it was like Joshua Seth or something, but who was Ty, and then the voice of Gigi, they're all from the new dub, the newest dub.
Right.
But every time I hear the newest dub, I swear to God, I think the Colonel is Chris Sabat, voice of Vegeta from DBZ. But you can hear it. At some points, you're like, no, that's not him. And then at other points, you're just like, all right, let's do this. And I'm like, that's fucking Sabat. Don't fucking lie to me. And then I look it up, and it's like, Google's like, this is not Chris Sabat. I'm like, shut the fuck up, Google. Get pissed at Google. I'm like, I'm going to Bing. I get so mad. Like, I can't deal with the fact that it is not Chris Sabat. It sounds just like him in certain scenes. Also, funny thing, the one scientist that literally Tetsuo just made his head explode, that's actually Steve Blum, who, if anyone's like, that name might sound familiar. Tom from Toonami, from the Toonami block, the newer Tom, because originally Tom was actually Sonny Strait, the voice of Krillin, in DBZ. And also in Dragon Ball, I think in Dragon Ball. But anyway, what's funny is he's not only Tom from Toonami, he's also Spike from Cowboy Bebop and Orochimaru from Naruto, also Wolverine in certain cases. So yeah, he just played a random one, like a couple lines character that just dies horrifically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's a quick question. So I have a scene in mind, but I have to ask you, is there any scene in the movie that you think this didn't need to happen? Like, I could have done without this. Is there any scene in the movie?
Well, I think I know what scene you're going to talk about.
Yes.
I guess... I mean, considering the world that they live in, it didn't feel necessarily like any of the scenes were out of place. So, I guess I'd say no. So I'll let you go to yours.
Well, yes, because mine. Well, I mean, I know that you agree that it was a bad scene. Like you didn't like the scene, the one I'm referring to. But it's the scene where the biker gang guys, the clowns, I think that was their name, they rip off that girl's shirt and then punch her in the face. The reason why. Okay, look. Yes, thank you.
The girl who would ask about Tetsuo.
Yes, because I think she was his girlfriend or whatever they had going with that.
Yeah, quote unquote. Like.
Well, yeah, because they were. Well, what's interesting, we say that they're kids, but they're still in high school from the looks of it. I don't think they're in middle school. I'd really hope they're not in middle school. Like they look like. Because the school that they were in. I mean, granted, I'm not. You know what it is? I mean, it's interesting because the school that they were in was clearly a high school slash
at the youngest.
Yeah,
and I guess that's still high school. So.
Well, it's interesting because the school that they were.
Yeah.
The school that they were in was a high school / college, but for all we know, that's where they put them because they didn't have anything. Because you know how middle schools would look. They usually have like the. I mean, even a high school arguably could look like that. Well, because it's interesting. Because here's the thing. No, hear me out, right? The school that Gohan went to in DBZ looked like that.
Right.
With the and that's usually how a college would look.
With like a lecture hall, you mean?
Yes, a lecture hall, yes. Where usually in anime we see what, be it middle school or in high school, we see the, seats with small desks.
Right.
So I don't know if they converted something because they needed to, or if it was like they're supposed to be like 15 and up, or because I don't know, maybe they were 12.
No, you're right. I thought of it more like I could see them being 15, and I'm like, well, stupid. That's still kind of high school age, depending on what you're looking at. So you're right. You're right. Right, exactly. What region you're looking at? But yeah, you're right. I would see them all as high school level. So yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, so the reason why I think that scene was bad, it's obvious. People be like, well, of course, that's they're abusing women, but it's not just from that perspective. It's because I would argue, well, it's good that they're the ones abusing women because they're the ones you want to think they're evil, they're assholes. Don't do that, kids. Those are the bad guys.
Right.
So you want to see scenes like that because you don't want to see them. You don't want to see the bad guys holding and hugging puppies. They're just adorable because you're like, wait, is that the bad thing to do? No. You want the good guys being like, I love that puppy, and the bad guys being like, I will kick it. And it's like, no, puppy. Right. And then the puppy's like, oh, Tetsuo. The puppy's like, the puppy's like, Kaneda. Kaneda's like, puppy.
Oh, God.
The puppy morphs into a gelatinous blob.
Oh, no.
Still hug it, though.
Oh.
It'd still be adorable.
Right.
Anyway. But seriously, though, right? So you want to see the bad guys doing something like that because you're like, they're bad, I fucking hate you. But when they did both, when they ripped off her shirt and then just punched her in the face, I was like, all right, guys, you're overdoing it. Shut the fuck up. You're being it felt edgy. In a bad way. We're gonna do both, and it's like, we get it. You're evil.
Right.
Settle down.
I mean,
I don't know.
It's it's abuse. Everything about that scene is abuse. So when she screams, it's like, of course, the first instinct is them to shut her up in a sense. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was. It felt like too much for me.
Yeah, no, I
in many ways.
I'm glad that they stopped them, but granted.
Oh yeah, it got to the point where it's like, you're gonna kill him, and he was like, great. No, what I loved he was like, you're gonna kill him. He was like, oh, I want to do even worse than that. I want to bust his head open, and I'm like, I really think you're getting things mixed up, Tetsuo. The natural progression of death, I think you're mixing it up.
Yeah. Well, that's just, even in that scene, too, you really see Tetsuo kind of he steals Kaneda's bike. He tries to run away with the girl, and because that's what he says. He's like, let's run away. Let's get out of here. Let's get far away from this place, anywhere. And it's just the idea that he can try and take care of himself along with her and get out of there and be able to fend off, take care of both of them at that, they're both his responsibility at that point. Not to say that she can't take care of herself, but the idea is they're both still kids. You kind of need, not in the sense to go form a gang. It's but they kind of need each other because they're all still kids. They're all trying to, in their own way, look out for each other.
Yeah.
And Tetsuo's like, no, I want to be able to show that I can do this myself. I'll take care of him. Stop trying to save me. It's like, dude, if I didn't step in, you'd both be dead.
Yeah. But I think we can wrap things up here unless there's anything else you want to say about the film.
I guess now thinking about it, and it's funny and sad. Well, not funny, but sad. It's the sense it's the same character. The one scene that really got me, other than that one, was at the end when they're in the stadium after, Tetsuo is, uncovered Akira and the general is trying to coax him into coming back. And that was another interesting thing, that the medication they were giving them was actually suppressing the power so that it seemed like the scientists could kind of gear them and teach them how to control it first.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then as later on they would give them less and less of it until they could show full control over it.
Yeah.
So the general's actually trying to lure Tetsuo back for his own good. It's you will literally destroy yourself if you do not come back with us, and you'll probably take out all of us with you. So I'm trying to save all of us in this regard.
Yes. Another show that I think definitely got an inspiration from this. At first I thought it got inspiration from Elephant Lead, which I'm sure it did too. Definitely I would argue that Stranger Things was inspired by this in some forms. And I don't know if you've seen Stranger Things, but
I haven't.
That's another show you should check out.
Yes.
But yes. To be fair, I only checked it out for the podcast that myself and Courtney did. We did that for TV Tuesdays. We brought that back for Halloween in July, and we did Stranger Things for it. And also, by the way, funnily enough, too, Courtney and I played something called Stranger Games. It was a game based on Stranger Things, and we played that also for Halloween in July. So to be fair, I wanted to see it because not only was everyone kind of jumping down my throat like, see Stranger Things, but also, I ended up doing it for the show. But yes, you definitely should see it too. But it reminded me, like, I just thought, like, Stranger Things too. Like, it also felt like it kind of ties into this in some ways. But no, yeah, that's why, like, you talking about, like, what was their true purpose. Like, it didn't seem like they were trying to make them to, like, destroy anyone or become weapons. Well, maybe they were to become weapons. But again, we don't know.
I mean, in a weird way, I feel like they were trying to develop their powers in a sense to stop all future wars, maybe? Because that still feels like it might have been their mindset, at that time. Like, if we have this kind of power, maybe we can, stop conflict in the future, or maybe it started out noble, and then, granted, human experimentation is bad no matter which way you spin it, so.
Very true, too. Yes.
But yeah, the scene I was referring to was when Tetsuo starts losing control of his body, and, Kaori had gone to see if he was okay, and he just, like, it goes completely out of control, and he turns into, the iconic blob monster. And I don't know what hit me harder was, the visual of her being crushed, or just Tetsuo's frantic screamings of her dying, and like, she's dying, Kaneda, help, please help.
Yeah,
and
the sound of her dying.
Being crushed.
The sound of the crush, I think, is what did it for me. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that...
Well, thank you all for listening.
In a way, that felt like overkill for me, but, like, it is a powerful scene, and it is a real good way to drive home that it's like, no, he's not in control anymore. He literally can't stop.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say that you were upset when the bartender died. But yeah, that one-ups that.
Yeah, no, that one-ups that too. Yeah, me and you had kind of talked a little bit about that too. When Tetsuo goes back to the bar, that they all hang around as their quote-unquote hideout. And it's weird because, like, yeah, he's a drug dealer, and yeah, he's a bartender, and he's not really looking out for their well-being per se, but, like, the idea that he kind of still lets them hang around is, like, considering the places that they could be, at least it's shelter, so it's like he's kind of being nice to them in a way.
Yes.
Like, I feel like he probably looks at them like, these are just a bunch of kids, like, whatever.
Yeah, and you're referring to, like, but he's a bartender in this universe. Not that he has bartenders in our universe.
No. Yeah. I meant the character himself, even though he doesn't necessarily have much of a character, but yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so I now want to say,
and then
for
Tetsuo
real,
just blows him up. Yeah.
Just blows him up. I want to say thank you all for listening in. I want to say that, not. I want to say for real, thank you all for Tetsuo blowing him up. What? No.
Yeah. And for me, it just kind of, like, it's weird. I understand, in a way, Tetsuo, like, lashing out, because he's lashing out at, like, the world around him and all the pain he's been caused. And, I feel like people would say, oh, he's just whiny, or it's like he's just being edgy. It's like, no, I feel like you'd probably lash out, too, if you grew up like he did.
Well, that's the thing, too. I think that
I'm not saying it's a positive way to express yourself. Obviously, it's not. He killed people. That's a bad thing. But,
I think I think that people only see his complaints and not, because, again, in this movie they don't really go into it that much, the fact that he probably doesn't have parents and he's probably been beaten up. Like, like, okay, I don't know where people, like, I'm not going to talk for like, everyone in the U.S., right? But, like, I was bullied when I was a kid. But even though I was bullied, I wasn't, like, I didn't have the threat of being beaten down by bikers, right? Or getting beaten up with, like I'm not going to speak for everyone out there, but, like,
or just
or
straight
worse.
up killed. Yeah.
Yeah. So I haven't, because, you know, we haven't, even if you haven't bullied, like, you and I haven't lived in a post-World War society.
Right.
Thankfully.
Exactly.
Or haven't grown up in that, thankfully. And also, more importantly,
really
you just don't live in. Yeah. And also, more importantly, too, well, not more important, but also important as well, is the fact that we live in areas that, it's not as if we live in squeaky clean areas, but we didn't have to deal with that growing up. That's all I have to say. Like, even if we got bullied, it didn't get to the point where we had to worry for our lives necessarily.
Yeah.
So I think people look at it from a perspective of like, oh, he had friends, and it's like an affluent kid. And it's like, no, it's not affluent. Like, he's not. Yeah, like, he isn't well off. Like, if he was the son of one of the military generals, or like one of the bureaucrats, or even like that. He was like the grandson of the one guy, you know, Gigi voiced him over. If he was like his grandson, then I'd be like, all right, go fuck yourself. You have everything.
Right.
But this is not a kid that has everything.
Right. That's one thing I wanted to mention, or I wanted to bring up just before we stop. I'm not sure if the character you're referencing when you say voice, you know, Gigi, whether that was he semi-bald with white hair and like the
the
like,
old guy in the suit with the cane.
Okay. Right. Now he talks to Ryu, the other guy that was like kind of like the head of the resistance that was talking to Kay. Yeah. At one point. So it's because it feels like he was funding the resistance.
Yes.
So like I feel like the people in the resistance were duped by, you know, this guy as well. Like they were funded by him, and they think they're trying to expose the government for doing its terrible things. But I wonder if he was, and you know, forgive me if I'm just not, if I didn't put two and two together, but like it feels like he may have orchestrated the resistance to then, you know, say, oh, the council is corrupt, but like I helped fund this to find out the corruption and like grant himself greater power in the future. Because like when he runs away to try and, I guess, when the general takes martial rule and he arrests the council, like he's running away and taking all his money and these bonds and like, you know, just filling a suitcase full of it. Like, I wonder if that's just all the evidence of his backroom dealings and like him actually trying to fund a resistance cell to then topple the government to then take control himself.
Yeah, I would argue he took the money because he's a dick who thinks that while the world's ending, my money will my paper, my papyrus,
will save me.
Will definitely save me when the world is ending. It's like, because Aki's going to be like, I'm going to use my powers. Wait, hold up, is that a 20? Well, shit, son.
Right. Well,
guess I'm going to stop being Akira.
Right. Characters like that always think that money will save them because it's what's gotten to them. It's what's gotten them into their position of power so far. So it's like, oh, of course I can bribe whoever I want. It's like, but then you meet the character that doesn't care about money and is more powerful than you because of something other than money.
Or apparently you just have a heart attack. Like, I was so interesting. Like, the medication thing I said earlier in the show, that confused me. I'm like, are you, like, popping in anxiety medication, or are you trying to OD? I'm confused. Because, like, I didn't know what was going on there.
That's a good point. I did not. I think he was having an attack, like a heart attack, and it was medication that he was supposed to be taking for it, and he just started, like, gobbling it down because he was panicking.
Right. I forgot that used to be a thing. I forgot that characters used to do that in shows. And it's like, nowadays, you're like, wait, what? No.
Yeah.
No, because, like, back in the day, I remember it'd be like, oh, you know, either an anime or, like, another animation. It's just like, oh, man, I'm having a heart attack. Gotta gobble more of that medication down. And, like, now we know. It's like, that causes an overdose.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Like, I don't see any shows, anyone gobbling medication. No matter what genre, what country, I don't see people gobbling down medication. Like, I need that medicine.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Anyway.
So that's interesting.
Yeah.
Like I kind of wish there was a little bit more on the council, and you could make the joke. It's like, oh, you want more, deliberation in the Senate and trade policies? It's like, well, to get an idea of like how it got this bad, I mean, yeah, kind of.
Dun 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 dun. That's what the dun dun was just from. It was a slowed down version of that.
Oh, jeez.
Of that track.
Star Wars.
Yeah, that's all it was.
God.
Yeah, no, I love it. Just after, because you're literally referencing our Star Wars Wednesday shows, where we're just we're like, fuck deliberation in the Senate, and now you're like, I want more deliberation in the Senate. So I just want to thank you all for listening in. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Anna Saturday. During this month
to censor me. The council is trying to keep the resistance down. He can't stop me. Mute.
I actually was about to mute you, but that meant I had to get up. Before I mute you, I want to mention this is one of the most expensive anime of all time.
I was wondering when you were going to get to that.
Yeah, no, so many companies had to come together to actually fund this, and it's hilarious.
Right.
Like, the committee consisted of Kodansha, Mainichi Broadcasting System, Bandai, Hakuhodo, Toho, Laserdisc Corporation, I don't know, and Suitomo Corporation. And the animation for the movie was done by, at the time, it's Tokyo Movie Shinsha, which is now TMS Entertainment. But, yeah, so many companies. I believe the funding was, it was 1,100,000,000 yen. I do not have because the reason why some people, might tell me, Matt, you should have converted it. In the 80s, it would have been different anyway. So I'm not going to, that's a lot of work. So, no, because the money would have been different. Not only for them, but for us too. So I'm like, I'm not going to do. But yeah, it was that much money. So just want to say, that is a lot of money for this movie. And that's why it looks so beautiful. Even today, it stands the test of time in that regard. Anyway, thank you all so much. Love you guys. Take care. Please listen to some of our other stuff. We have so many different. We have our Let's Plays over at Those Guys Play on our YouTube channel. You can search up. We obviously are doing many different podcasts throughout this month, all quote-unquote horror-themed, or at least movie monster-themed, and you can definitely check those out. You're obviously listening to us right now, I assume, through our Blog Talk Radio, maybe, which is actually blogtalkradio.com/Those Guys on the Radio, maybe our iTunes by searching up Those Guys on iTunes, or you're listening to us through our backlog of shows on our YouTube channel, which is Those Guys on the Radio. You can search that up on YouTube to find us there. Thank you all so much. Love you guys. Take care, and get some merchandise over at our main website. You can get a bunch of different shirts and other stuff over at our main website, which is teacherproduction.net/merchandise, or you can get stuff over at our eBay, which is /USR/Those Guys Radio, where not only do we have shirts and posters that are exclusive to that eBay, we also have a bunch of stuff that I'm selling for my personal collection as well. So you can get some of that stuff before it runs out. So thank you all so much. Love you guys. By the way, anime, VHS, DVDs, WWE stuff, video games as well, a bunch of stuff over at our eBay. So anyway, thank you all so much. Love you guys, and take care, and say good night, Tristan.
Good night, everybody.
Tristan!
Matt!